we got down to Geographic Bay and spent the night there, and then we headed off, but we knew we were having this southeasterly wind. Unfortunately, the southeasterly wind was pretty strong, and this is the track. If you can see, we came down, we sailed, we tacked, so we're making reasonable. We get down to here, and it was 10 o'clock at night, and we decided we'd hove to. So we hove to at night, and putting the jib out one side, the main out the other, and tying the wheel, and the boat just sat there, and it went up and down in the 3.5 metre seas quite comfortably, everything staying in place. But we drifted back that 12 miles. So the next day we down and we make up the distance and we keep going, and the wind was increasing again, so we decided we would hove to again. So we hove to, but this time we didn't go back as much. We then, it was a bit like being out in the junction of the Indian Ocean and the the Pacific, the Indian Ocean and the Great Southern Ocean here. But we went back, and then we started sailing again in the morning, and we got down about here at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We've got a deteriorating weather forecast. We're getting southeasterlies up to 35 knots. So we decided to call it quits and went back to Perth. And we decided that I contacted Seawind, and Seawind have been very helpful all the way along. No matter when you're doing maintenance or query, you can ring up the factory, Graham or Mike at the factory, or Royce, and ask a question, and you get plenty of advice on how to go about things. So we then back to Perth, and but I'll just run through the AIS. If we can just bring up the next slide, please, Paula. I installed an AIS, which is an automatic identification system. The automatic identification system sends out a signal from my boat, and any commercial boat over 300 tonnes has to have one of those fitted. And each little triangle there is a commercial boat going around Cape Leeuwin, and you can click on the little symbol, and you can get the name of the boat, its speed, its direction, its port of origin, where it's going to, its displacement and its length, and also its call sign. And so we're hove to out in the Indian Ocean, and we could see off at Cape Leeuwin, and we could see these boats, and we'd call them up on the radio, and they acknowledge us, and they'd hold the course 5 degrees and go around us. At one stage there we had 7 boats within 20 miles of us. But it is a bit frightening when you're up north on the coast, and you'd be sort of on watch in the afternoon, or don't know what we didn't see, but you know, half a mile away a big car carrying boat would go past, and hopefully they would have seen us on the radar, but that AIS was $1,300 well spent. We had a slight leak coming in through where one of the water pipes come through where one of the hatches, and Paula was determined to find it, and she did find it, and we sealed it up, and so we had plenty of food. We weren't going to go hungry. So what happened is that we went home, and then after the Perth boat show, my boat was in with Patrick Darling, and they looked after it for a month, and I then returned to Perth, and Paula opted that she wasn't going to do the bite, and after the boat show we left Albany, and it took us 2 days to get to Albany. It was a bit different to our previous journey. We had a southwesterly wind, and this is going past Cape Leeuwin and then into Albany. It took us 2 days to get to Albany, and then we were getting southwesterly winds 20 to 25 knots, but then we had a squall coming through, and it came through at 45 knots, and Royce saw it coming, and we just downed all the sails and secured everything, and we were then going along with the saloon, the wind blowing the canvas in the back of the saloon, and we had it actually open, and it was acting a bit like a spinnaker, and with a third of the jib still doing 8 knots with looking at the stern. You could see the waves, and the boat would go up and it'd go down the wave and up, but all sat very, very stable. In fact, when we were hove to off Cape Leeuwin, we didn't put anything away. We just had things sitting there. The cup stayed upright, and makes it very comfortable. And John Clayton has a keel boat, and he said you don't get as tired on the catamaran because you're not constantly bracing yourself, and you can walk around, and And that's the advantage. I mean, you lose the feel of sailing with a tiller and that, but we've got a mirror dinghy, and if we really want to get that experience, we'll go out in the mirror dinghy. So Albany, we topped up, and unfortunately I haven't got that many pictures of the bight, but all there'll be water. As we left Albany, we set a waypoint of 1,000 miles away, and we virtually went due west along the 35-degree latitude. And we had all sorts of wind. The wind was strong, and the seas were up as we left. And about the third day, it slowly dropped off. In fact, we were about to launch the spinnaker, and then turned and came in from the northwest. And we were down. Sometimes we were reefed down to the third reef, and only a little bit of jib, but we're still doing 8 knots. Still quite comfortable, and heading across towards Kangaroo Island. 1,000 nautical miles, and we left Albany, and it took us 7 days. We were in Adelaide, so it was a fairly reasonable trip, and over 140 miles a day, and no real dramas. I got a bit seasick towards the end because I stopped taking travel calm, because I wasn't taking any medication or anything to combat seasickness, but the person who we met in Perth who had a sea window was a pharmacist, and I thought, well, he's the one to ask about seasickness. So he said to me, travel calm, and if you get sick, Stematol. So I thought after 8 days I'd had enough travel calm, and where I was lying along the bunk, you could just occasionally get the whiff of petrol, because we had plenty of petrol on board in the tanks, and the constant movement, you get the occasional whiff, and your head was down the pillow, and thump, thump, thump as we're going through the water. And I think I went down below and did something looking for something downstairs in one of our lockers, and then that's when I became seasick. And but anyhow, I was well looked after by Royce and the other 2 with us, Emma and Mac, 2 Canadian backpackers. There were 4 of us across the bight.